other song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It's episode 22152215.
Mike's Daily Podcast
2214. My name's Mike Matthews. Welcome to Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. And my name is not Sally, although I kind of like that name. But I'm male. I'm not binary. At that I fail because I grew up in a world that was binary, so it's tough for me to think along those lines. But
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I'm also a fan of Sam Smith, so there you go. This is episode 2214. I went into that already,
Mike's
but I just thought
Daily
I would repeat something
Podcast
just to kill time.
Yeah!
Because that's how talk show hosts are. They like to kill time by talking slowly. Today on the show, I have to burn time, so I'll talk real slow and old sounding. No. I'm going to talk to you like Mike Matthews talks to you when we are sitting together, perhaps. Socially distancing, very large table, both got masks on, perhaps helmets, perhaps some kind of fire retardant sprayed on you, and then, but not asbestos, because that's bad. What am I saying? I'm saying you're at Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton, the last place on earth. And today's show is going to feature blah and blah and bloop and other things. So we'll get into that right now by first saying Mike Matthews had a couple cups of coffee today. That's why he's a little bit odder than usual. So the British newspapers covering the whole Harry and Meghan thing. The Daily Mail's front page tied two headlines together. As royals face fallout from Meghan and Harry's bombshell interview, Queen tells Commonwealth what real service is. Duty means everything.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Yes, and that's enough of that, because that was already a week ago. Can you believe it? What a week. The podcast picture today is of myself, because sometimes you have to see who is doing this podcast. And in fact, there's little videos that I do for every show, and you can see it at MikesDailyPodcast.com, and you can also find it at YouTube. Basil! The podcast picture was at Stinson Beach, and I never got to take you there. I know, so sad. But you were there in spirit, Basil. Literally, actually, I had Basil's ashes with me at Stinson Beach. I did not spread him, though, there. He's still with me in a little box made of wood that has sort of a brindle print on it, much like his fur was brindle. I will have to post a podcast picture of Basil again, although you can see him at MikesDailyPodcast.com. There are lots of pictures of him there. But today, I was on my way to get a bagel at this place in Podcastro Valley that was way too busy, way too busy, and the parking lot was way too crazy, and I don't want to do that again because it was nuts. Even though Dennis runs the place, and he's a nice guy, he always asks me how I'm doing. But it was pretty darn slow, and lots of people, and just, you know how it is. You know what? That's what I don't miss. I loved during the pandemic when we were all staying at home and nobody was going out, and you'd go somewhere and go, I wonder if this place is still open. And you'd walk in and there'd be nobody there. You get served right away. Of course, those places are now closed. The ones that nobody went to anymore, they're gone. But this bagel place has survived, and now they're just gangbusters and lots of calls happening while we were there, people calling in their orders. And it took a while, and it was slow. But the point is, all I'm saying is on our way there we ran into a boxer named Duke. This guy was walking a boxer named Duke, and Duke and Basil met each other years and years ago. The father of the guy that was walking the dog today, he had Duke outside, and Basil was walking. This was years ago. And Basil and Duke got into a fight. And I tried to break it up, and Basil bit me. Yes, he bit the hand that fed him. And I had a big puncture wound in the middle of my palm. Yes, kind of Easter-ish. And that hurt like crazy. There was a friend of mine who was a doctor. He took a look at it and said, you need to go to the hospital. Did I? No. Did it heal? Yes, thankfully it did. Should I have gone to the hospital? Probably. But I didn't, and I learned from that not to stick your hand in front of two dogs that are fighting. You want to pull them from their back legs or their tails, or pull the leash back or something, but don't get your hand involved. This is what I learned. So, this dog that fought with my dog years and years ago has outlived Basil the Boxer. And he is now actually, and I was shocked to see this, but he is now going through the exact same thing Basil went through. The degenerative myelopathy. So this is now, within the past year, the third dog that I've seen with this that has been a boxer. And this young man, the son of the guy, he owns this dog. His name's Duke, and he's holding him up by the back legs with the harness. The harness goes around the back, the haunches there, like a little little harness, like you would do if you were climbing a rock wall, I guess, kind of something like that. And he was holding up Duke. Duke is a lot lighter than Basil. Basil was 85 pounds. I think Duke was probably about 60. But so he's holding him up, and I said to the guy, look, I'm going to come by sometime your house, and I'm going to drop off some of Basil's old harnesses if you need them. And here's another thing that's going to be coming up for you, and that is you're going to need puppy pads. And that's on the way. So I'll drop those off too, but there you go. It's interesting. The other dog that was Basil's nemesis was a dog named Bailey. Bailey and Basil went on many a walk together, but they would often fight. And one time I got bit by Bailey trying to break up a fight between them. That was another time. I didn't remember the first time it happened, so I stuck my hand in front of the two dogs fighting, and this time I got bit by Bailey, and I have a scar from that. But Bailey has outlived Basil, and Bailey actually got some of Basil's leftover food. And I put a note with the food when I gave it to Bailey. I know the owners. And the note said, sorry we fought over food all the time. Here's the rest of my food, Basil. So anyway, I wish the best for Duke. Duke still looks really healthy as we go outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcaster Valleyton. Bailey's doing great. But Duke, he's just did the back legs. He can't hold himself up, and they're wobbly, and the front legs are still strong as can be. So I think Duke's got a while yet. But it's a thing with boxers. It is a thing with boxers. So be aware before you get one of those wonderful boxers that is an issue. And we're outside of Podcaster Valleyton, the last place on earth. Cafe anyway. There was a dog named Tatina. Tatina was her name, and air travel was her fame. In 1925, the little terrier puppy was found and rescued by Captain Umberto Nobile as she wandered the streets of Rome, hungry and homeless. She would eventually go on to live a life of adventure and become a world-famous canine. According to the captain, she stood on her hind legs and with her forepaws beat the air beseechingly until he patted her head. A young boy was going by whistling La Tatina, a popular song in the 1920s, and in that moment, Tatina became the puppy's name, and Captain Nobile became her forever father. And what a dad he was. Little did this small brown and white terrier know that she would soon join her dad aboard the airship Norgie, or that'd probably be Norge, in its attempt to be the first dirigible to fly across the North Pole. Just one of several extremely dangerous trips that the two would embark on together. But that morning, she was oblivious of the life ahead of her when the captain tucked her under his arm and headed for meetings to discuss his upcoming first-ever transpolar flight. As the airship designer and its chief pilot, Captain Nobile was plenty busy with important tasks to complete before the trip was still brought Tina with him everywhere. This is an article I pulled from a magazine called Coastal Canine, and this is quite an old issue. You probably won't ever find this because it came out fall of 2019. But there is a book out there about famous dogs from like the 1920s and earlier, and you see little pictures of them. And these canines, I mean, dogs have figured in so much into our lives, and it's just fantastic. So it's sleepy by Donald Trump standards, but the former president's century-old estate in New York's Westchester County could end up being one of his biggest legal nightmares. Seven Springs is a 213-acre swath of nature surrounding a Georgian-style mansion. It's a subject of two state investigations, a criminal probe by Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. and a civil inquiry by New York Attorney General Letitia James. This could come back to haunt Trump. Both investigations focus on whether Trump manipulated the property's value to reap greater tax benefits from an environmental conservation arrangement that he made at the end of 2015 while running for president. And there, some of the funniest reactions to the Harry and Meghan Oprah interview. One of them said, watching American adverts, this was a British person watching the interview, watching American adverts during the Meghan and Harry Oprah interview is so surreal. Why are there so many of them for meds? Are y'all okay? Yes. Makes you think that the people watching that interview needed lots of meds. There's this one commercial for meds, some kind of med, and the voice over for, you know, the whole disclaimer of may cause bloating, may cause your head to pop off, may cause this. It sounds like the guy, Stefan, Bill Hader's character that he does on Saturday Night Live, where he's like, it's that thing that when you put it into your system, it makes your whole body break out in hives. Has that one of those kind of voices? Stefan! All right, one other thing. I have so much stuff that I have accumulated in my little folder, in my email, that I've been trying to get to with the podcasting and whatnot. And Trump tried to keep Canada... What? Trump tried to keep Canada from getting N95 masks. At the height of the global scramble for the critical COVID-19 medical supplies like N95 masks and ventilators, Justin Trudeau's government privately warned the Trump administration not to go down a protectionist road or else. Publicly, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada would not retaliate, that his government was working to ensure the U.S. understood trade in essential medical supplies goes both ways across the border. However, previously unreported emails show senior officials in the Prime Minister's office and Canada's ambassador in Washington, Kristen Hillman, worked out a hardline strategy to get Trump's government to reverse course. And finally, dropping out of that story and dropping into this, I would like to say that I especially like Saturdays because I see somebody in particular who is a bit, shall we say, on the conspiratorial side, and he keeps saying that he puts on his tin foil hat, and I go, they don't make tin foil anymore, and he goes, oh yeah, that's right, it's aluminum foil. But he was telling me, I'm not going to take the vaccine because it wasn't tested, the FDA didn't test it out, so I'm not going to take it. And then in the next breath, he's complaining about how the vaccine rollout is all messed up and that teachers should have gotten it first and that it's all messed up. But then he's saying, oh, the healthcare workers, they don't want to take it because they know it could end up hurting them. So that's a conversation I have with this guy when it comes to the vaccine. He doesn't trust anybody, doesn't trust government, and he goes down that rabbit hole of not trusting things. Meanwhile, he's trusting the water coming out of his tap. He's trusting the electricity coming through his plug to power the computer that shows him all the conspiratorial theories that he likes to look up. Oh, yeah, and he's a big fan of the guy who, with the voice like this, the one that, not Glenn Beck, but the other one. No, I can't think of him now. Hey, we're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Look who's here.
Hello, my Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift shop supervisor. I really like electricity. It helps power things in my gift shop, like heaters.
Oh, you got little electric heaters in your gift shop?
That's right, Mike Matthews, because it's so cold at cafe anyway. You need to turn up the heat, Mike Matthews.
That's great. Okay, we'll do that. Can you turn down maybe your electric heaters, because the electric bill is going through the roof. It's very bad. Very, very bad. I miss the president that used to say very, very bad. Very. He used the word very a lot. That was fun. I love that adjective word. Look who else is here. Hello, Mike. This is Floyd the Floorman. And this is John Deere, the engineer. Mike, I think the guy that you're referring to is Alex Jones, I mean. Alex Jones, that's right, yes. This guy I was talking to loves the Alex Jones. All right, hey, I went to Glenn Beck's website, and his podcast shows him with gray hair, and much like yours truly has a... You're being censored. If you think you're seeing everything from me, guess what? You're not. Sign up for my newsletter today and get the information big tech is keeping from you. Oh. Well, that's right. I got to be a conspiracy theorist about big tech as well. All right, I'll work on that. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Tell me what you think about anything we covered on the show today. You can call me 336MM Daily. 3 plus 3 equals 6. MM as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast has tried to be. Customers, employees, and society in general have high expectations that proper direction, discernible momentum, and sufficient detail will be inherent in every entity with which they interface. This is because customers, employees, and society in general desire integrity and genuineness in their institutions. As integrity and genuineness cannot be ignored, so too direction, momentum, and detail cannot be ignored by leadership. They are expressions of integrity and genuineness. If leaders refuse to provide direction, momentum, and detail, they default on their responsibilities. Good leaders do not need reminders that each of these short phrases represent a requirement. To fail at any one of these steps is to fail at them all because they are interdependent. Bad leaders do not take this to heart, nor do they set in motion appropriate strategies that make the three work in harmony. Good to think about. If you want to be a good leader, E. Arthur Self, PhD, writes, integrity and genuine. Are you genuine? Are you real? Are you fake? Are you fakeity fake? Think about that. Don't want to do that in this world. Yes. The guy that rings your doorbell. Oh, that's another thing that stopped during the pandemic. Nobody was ringing my doorbell. Now that's coming back. Shoot. Oh, well. Here's A-Frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Oh, sorry. You caught me listening to some show, and let me stop it there. Hey, speaking of shows, I got my radio show tomorrow morning. You can catch it from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every Sunday, and there's a link at MikesDailyPodcast.com to listen to it. This was episode 2215. Did I say that right? 2215. There, I corrected myself. You can catch all the past podcasts at MikesDailyPodcast.com.